Good evening, folks. Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV as the preview for the big game on Saturday at Celtic Park against Rangers. I've got Chris and Martin with me to look ahead to the fourth derby of the season. Chris, how are you feeling about it coming into it? Obviously off the back of that 3-0 victory over Hearts last weekend? A huge carrot for us, huge incentive in this game. How do you feel going into it?
I mean, first and foremost, really excited for the game. I think it'll be a fantastic spectacle. And if the atmosphere from the Hearts game carries over and is amplified in this game, then it's going to be a special mid-afternoon, in the East End of Glasgow. I mean, form-wise, we couldn't ask for more. I think that was probably the most complete 90 minutes we've had this season, to be honest. I think the fans and the players were in lockstep, probably for the first time in a long time. I think the fans could really sense what the players were trying to do in that game, understanding the magnitude of the game, at the context of the season. Literally 4 league games to go when we took the field against Hearts, and it was a complete performance. Squad-wise, we couldn't really be in a better place. We've got everybody available, and I think confidence amongst the fans and the players is probably at an all-time high, right? So hopefully there's no letdown. I'm not expecting one, and I am quietly confident going into the game just based on what I'm seeing from both teams at the moment. So it's an exciting time, and look, these are the massive games, and this is the ones where your most experienced players will set the tone, set the tempo. And just watching Callum's interview on Celtic TV, I was just the words coming out. He knows, he understands the magnitude and the approach his players need to have, and I think it sets up for a fantastic game.
Yeah, absolutely, Martin. We obviously did the full-time reaction on Saturday after the Hearts game, and one of the things I was really impressed with was the way we got after Hearts in the second half. Do you think there's something? Obviously, this season's been a bit indifferent at times. We've had to face a lot of teams, obviously, that defend deep, and we've struggled with that from time to time. But do you think there's something to be said for, because Hearts did try and play a wee bit, but I think that really helps us because it gives us that opportunity to press them whenever they're trying to play out and they're trying to keep possession. We were all over them, and I think that was a real catalyst for the atmosphere and what that was like in the second half, and hopefully we can replicate that. Again, you think back to that first half at Ibrox where we really got after Rangers and pressed them high up the pitch. That will be really good for the atmosphere if we can start like that on Saturday.
Yeah, I think if we can get a good start in a lot of the games that we've seen real success this season, we've got off to an absolute flyer. And the game at the weekend, other than Hearts having a fantastic chance in the first minute, Celtic started the game fantastically well, got the early goal, as we did at Ibrox, as you've alluded to there, Paul. And I think one of the key things for us at this junction is, possibly for the first time this year, everything's come together at one time. So, if it were a car vehicle, every single part of the car vehicle is in good working order. Whereas at times during the course of the season, we've been missing wheels, we've had a dodgy exhaust. There's been so many things when you look back at. And I'm a wee bit sick of listening to Ten Hag at Man United talking about not having the full personnel available. But so I don't want to use that as an excuse for at times we've underperformed, and we're competing in the Scottish League in particular. We've got the resources to be able to perform at a decent level. Regardless of injuries, but it has just felt this year we've missed our best players, and more often than not just a single player. So if you're missing 2 or 3 of your best players, it can be a real challenge. What I felt like at the weekend was, for the first time in a long time, we had not just our best players available, but a bit of momentum. There was a real drive in the team, a real energy level, and there was no weaknesses across the whole pitch. It just feels like it's all come together at exactly the right time. And I'm confident we'll take that into the game of the weekend. Your point on the pressing, I think, is a really good one too, because often we're hindered at Celtic Park by trying to break down teams who just come and sit in. Hearts didn't do that at the weekend, and Rangers can't really afford to do that at the game on Saturday, because obviously have to come and get the 3 points. I want to chat this week about, would Celtic fans be happy with a draw? I think undoubtedly, in the context of the way the league is, a draw would be a reasonable result for us. But there's no doubt in my mind that we'll be going for the victory. That, the manager and all the players will be desperate to get that win. But one thing's for sure, a draw's not a good result for Rangers. They'll be desperately. They would then have to hope that we lose a game after that. Goal difference goes in their favour and they win their 2 remaining games. So they're going to have to come out and play, Paul, to your point, which suits us perfectly, because we'll just pick them off and hit them on the break. And the pace and we've seen it against Hearts. You think about those first 2 goals and the passes that were picked out from the midfield. So we've got the technical expertise in midfield. We've got the pace on particularly with Maeda and Kyogo up front. So I'm hoping it's that type of game where there's, it's end to end, obviously more so in their box than ours.
It's almost strange, isn't it, that this was the first derby this season that we will be perceived favourites for. What impact do you think that has on the game, if any?
I don't think it affects us, to be honest, Paul. I think we're comfortable in either position, and I believe that really stems from both the manager and the captain, right? We're comfortable playing from behind in the table, because we just let our game, dictate how we can get on top of Rangers. That's happened in all 3 games this year. I mean, let's be honest. We should have won all 3 derbies. I mean, the game at Ibrox is as exciting as it was. That's a game, if you look back on it and you're being brutally honest, we have to find a way to close that game out. You're in injury time when Matondo gets that winner. It's not something you would expect, but in these games, anything can and usually does happen. But to be honest, Rangers have suffered from being the favourites. And I do wonder about their psychology about being the underdogs in the context of, to Martin's point, they have to win the game. A draw is not good enough for them. Although our record at Rugby Park has been terrible, the way we're playing now and with the health of the squad and the way the team is very much together, I don't see us losing that game. And then even if we were to draw on Saturday, lose to Kilmarnock, we still have the home game against St Mirren, and they obviously have to go away to Tynecastle, which is practically a home game for them, just given how poorly Hearts seem to try. But we just need to take care of our own business. If we win the game, which I would think that we're expecting to do, it's over. It's really that simple. So I don't think the tag of perceived favourites for this last game has any bearing on how we'll approach the game and how I expect that we'll play.
Yeah, absolutely. Martin, I think in terms of team selection, which is always a big talking point going into these games, probably only one position I think is going to give the manager a headache, and it's probably in the wide positions where Dyson has just come back from that injury. Kuhn's had a long run of games. James Forrest has been playing really well. He's won us some important games recently. I think Forrest will play. I think the decision is going to be between Kuhn and Maeda. And in my opinion, I think there's only one decision the manager can make, given Maeda's form in this fixture.
Yeah, for me, Maeda would be the first choice out of those 3 players. I think he's a massive player in this game, and he has got his critics, and he isn't. He's far from the perfect player. What we need to remind ourselves is, for a lot of the guys that are at Celtic, if they had it all, they possibly would be playing, down south or in one of the bigger leagues. Is the reality. But he brings so much with regards to his energy levels, and he really restricts, what the Rangers players can do on the ball. So he'll harry and he'll press and he'll frustrate, and he's all over the pitch, and he sets the tone for me in amongst his peer group, because you've got somebody who's working that hard round about. You almost feel guilty if you don't, up your game a little bit and put in a little bit more of an effort. And he just frustrates the opposition. So for me, he's massive. He would be my first choice. And if I was Brendan Rodgers, I would be tempted to go with Forrest as the second choice, just as he really has turned up in the last few games. I wouldn't say, necessarily that he always turns up in these derby games, but he has had some spectacular performances. He scored some big goals in these games as well. So it's not as if he's going to be overwhelmed by the occasion. He'll take it in his stride, and he'll bring a bit of composure and calmness to the team. And I'm kind of hoping that he starts. I think, again, in the context of the game, we don't need to go chasing it. So James Forrest for me is a fantastic outlet. If we need to calm the game down a little bit.
Chris, is that the same for you out wide?
100%. I mean, we were talking off air, Paul. I mean, Forrest has to start, just given his technical ability on the ball, which is a bit of an indictment when you think about the players that we've brought in after Jota left that have not been able to live up to the size of that Celtic jersey, right? Forrest has done it season after season after season after season. And, when we needed somebody the most, he's really stepped up these past couple of weeks. And I think he'll have an excellent game. And if Rangers go with Sterling on that side and Maeda's over on his traditional side on Tavernier, even if you have to bring Maeda off after 60 minutes, say, or 65 minutes, you could put Forrest over onto that side and then bring Kuhn on. And then I still feel comfortable with James's technical ability to keep Tavernier at bay on that side of the field. So I think those have to be the selections, and the rest of the team just absolutely takes care of itself. And, the wee number 8, I mean, he is just built for this game. So if Rangers are going to pack the midfield, which I suspect they might with the personnel that they're missing, Celtic have to be looking for those quick balls with Kyogo running off the shoulder. I mean, he must make those runs 15, 20, 25 times a game. And we've got to be alert to that. And if he's in behind, I fancy his chances to score.
Yeah, I think we seen that again at the weekend. When you get chances to him, he scores goals. And I think that'll be the case this weekend as well. If we can just get the service to him, he'll put the ball in the back of the net. Martin, it's probably it's definitely the last league derby where there's going to be no away support in the ground. In the ground, do you think that's exclusively an advantage for us?
I think it's undoubtedly an advantage. I mean, I said on a recent show that I didn't feel that Rangers had significantly benefited from locking Celtic out, because ultimately that's what happened. I think it was Gerrard that came in, and whether it was his voice or others, I'm not sure. But prior to his arrival, we'd had some real parties and some big wins, and I think they thought, right, let's try something drastic. But it hasn't worked. The results haven't gone in their favour. We've had as many favourable results in that cauldron at Ibrox. I do genuinely believe, and I know some will say, well, you've got green tinted glasses on, and you would say that, but I genuinely think there's something even more special about Celtic Park with 60,000 fans. Not just the fact there's more fans, but there's just many world class players have come and said that Celtic Park is a one off and it's the best. So we have had a couple of occasions against Rangers in recent times that I've just felt like the best ever atmosphere, despite the fact that there's not the opposition fans to create that atmosphere. And there is something missing. We don't have the opposition fans, but you can still create a fantastic atmosphere amongst your own fans, and we've absolutely done that. And I'm convinced that that is going to be one of the contributing factors, that the fans on Saturday, we've talked about a lot of the fans were up for it on Saturday, and I'm convinced they'll be the same again this weekend.
Chris, as always in these games, we need big performances for the midfield players. You've mentioned Kyogo already. In terms of threats for Rangers or dangers for us, how do you see that?
I mean, I think Rangers are missing some key personnel in major parts of the field, right? Obviously, Goldson, he's not popular amongst all the Rangers fans, but he's been a good central defender for them. They're missing Sima, who is he's pacey, right? So there's no doubt that that would be a problem. And then Matondo as well, who just scored in the last game. I believe he's probably going to be out too. So I think we carry the bigger threat, especially with Hatate being fully healthy. His composure on the ball and his ability to take the ball under pressure. Him, McGregor, and O'Reilly really, I felt, had their best game as a trifecta against Hearts on the weekend. O'Reilly, for huge spells of the season, has been Player of the Year in Scotland, no doubt in my mind. And he's just likely to, cause a lot of problems in the middle of the park for Rangers, along with Hatate and McGregor in that anchor role. And if we can get Kyogo the service, then it's game over for Rangers, to be completely honest. And look, they always carry a threat with the long ball. They'll probably deploy Dessers in that role, I would guess. And Tavernier is obviously always a threat from set pieces, corners, and free kicks. So got to be careful in and around our box to not, leave, opportunities that could be avoided. And obviously, Butland, whether you like it or not, has played very well in these games and has made numerous saves. But Joe Hart's been excellent of late, so I don't feel like there's a massive advantage there in net. And if we just play our game, the result will take care of itself.
Martin, I think that's an important point. I've heard it said from a couple of different quarters this week, but we obviously get very nervous and excited about these games, but for the players and the coaching staff, it's really all about just following their game plan, doing what they always do and executing that and trying to stay as calm as possible, because it's important that the players don't get too emotional in these games, obviously, but also that they stick to their game plan and they play the game. Obviously, if we can do that, if we can perform to a high level and stay calm, then we've got a great chance of winning the game.
One of the things I love about Brendan Rodgers is his persona, his professionalism, his calmness, and the captain brings that too. Without the influence of Brendan Rodgers, he's a completely different captain to Scott Brown, and I was one of Scott Brown's biggest fans, so never say anything against the way he conducted himself. But I love the fact that there's an alignment between Brendan Rodgers and Callum McGregor, and they bring that professionalism and calmness, and you can see it spread across the whole team. On the flip side of that, often in the Rangers camp, there's the opposite. There's panic. There's overreaction, whether that be in the build up to the game or in the game itself. So I love the fact that we're in that calm environment. Chris has alluded to some of this already, but my feeling going into the game is one of personal calmness and confidence. I might feel a little bit nervous in the immediate build up to the game and the game itself. I think that's just natural, but the confidence comes with some substance and rationale. And I wrote down a list of reasons why I feel confident, without alluding to some of the stuff that Chris has talked about. The opposition are not a team that I've ever considered to be a strong team across the park. They do have some individual players with talent, but not players that I would associate to Rangers of teams of old where they had some top class players. I don't consider this Rangers team to have a strong individual or collective personnel. But for by all of that, although that's an obvious factor, you go through it and I think, well, my number one's probably the captain, and the captain has been a little bit rusty in his early return after injury, but you look at him now and it just looks like he's going to have another one of those games. He was the best player in the derby game in Celtic Park the last time, and I've got a good feeling that he's going to step up again and be the standout man. So I'm delighted to see his return to form at the weekend, and you can see it's been gradual progress. And he's talked about the way in which he's getting himself back to form, and it's just come at the right time. Hatate, for me, alongside O'Reilly in that last game at Ibrox, were absolutely sensational. The ball retention, the decision making, the distribution, the way to pass, the pressing, just everything about their game. They are exceptional players, those two. And hopefully we've got them for a long, long time. Who knows? Time will tell. But in the meantime, we just should enjoy them. So, if we had one of those players in the team, but the fact we've got both of them, and that's been a rarity this year, I'm so excited to see the combination of those two players alongside the captain. Joe Hart, we've talked about him. I think Joe Hart is desperate to finish his career at Celtic on a high, and his form has been very, very good in recent weeks. So he features in one of my reasons why I'm feeling so confident and really high up that list. He's been consistently excellent. Carter Vickers, I mean, we give him praise all the time, and rightly so. He is just so pivotal in that defence, alongside three other players who are nowhere near as good as him, but are individually good players. Carter Vickers, for me, the return of Maeda, it was only a couple of weeks ago we thought he was out for the season. That's been a major boost for us with Maeda coming back. The form of Kyogo, the fans we've talked about already, and then probably the last two or three things are as important as all the others. Brendan Rodgers' record against Rangers is unbelievably good. I think it's one defeat in 16 games. Now, that's not luck, that's not coincidence. That's a lot of tactical excellence. And of course, the team record against Rangers is very, very good over a prolonged period of time. and then finally there's the momentum swing. We'll go back to the game at Ibrox and the pressure that was on that game for Celtic to get some kind of result, and Rangers' confidence was sky high. It's now the polar opposite. For a couple of really bad defeats, that they're under pressure, and we are psychologically in a really, really good place. So quite often you'd be calling out 3 or 4 of these things, but there's 10, and I could probably keep going. So for all those reasons and many more, I feel really, really confident going into this game.
Yeah, so I feel much better now after that list as well, mate. Chris, all that's left to do, I suppose, is ask you how you think this game's going to play out on Saturday.
Yeah, so we were chatting off air with our friend Callum, who's currently in Malaysia, and Callum wants everyone to know it'll either be 3-0 or 4-1 Celtic. And when he asked me, I said it would be 3-1. I got the 2-1 game right at December, and I said it would be a scoring draw at Ibrox. So I'm 2 for 2 in the last 2 derby games, and if I'm 3 for 3, even if it's a win by any scoreline, I'll be extremely happy. But yeah, I'll go for 3-1 Celtic, Kyogo to score the first goal.
Yeah, Martin, the scorelines have been tight so far this season. It's often difficult to predict, but how do you see it going?
I think you're spot on. Quite often you get carried away and we call out big scores, and Callum's done that. But again, I think there's some good justification. If you pick the bones out of the last 2 games, I mean, the first one being at Ibrox earlier in the season, and there wasn't much by way of chances in that game. But you look at the last 2, the one at Celtic Park, the Rangers did have 1 or 2 chances, undoubtedly. The one with the Rangers players clean through, etc. But Celtic were good in that game, and we're 2-0 up. And for an untidy tackle on the edge of the box, and typically Tavernier, scoring from a free kick. But we're seeing that game out 2-0, going on 3 or 4 at the time, because Rangers, as Clement keeps reminding us, were down to 10 men late in the game. So that felt like quite comfortable, other than the fact it finished a little bit nervy because Rangers got a goal back from a free kick. You then go to the next game at Ibrox, and again, that first half domination. We could and should have seen that game out, and for it to have been far more comfortable for by. And I know these things happen in a game. You can't say, we gave away a free kick and that's an excuse for it not being comfortable, and we gave away a penalty and it's an excuse, because these things happen in a game and they're an important part of the game. But the point I'm trying to make is, in both those games, it felt like we were really comfortable up to a certain point in the game. And I've got a feeling it's going to be the same again this weekend. I think we're going to start the game well, we're going to get an early goal, and we're going to be really comfortable. The big question with regards to will it be a 2-1, a 3-2 versus a 3-0, is can we keep the foot on the pedal, and can we continue to stay in 6th gear, if you want to call it 6th gear, right? And can we really put a show on like we did that time when we won 3-0 at Celtic Park and under the lights? Can it be that type of game? Celtic haven't been great at keeping the ball out of the net, but again, back to the points that we've been talking about on the show, is we're in the best place we've been the full season. So I wouldn't be shocked if we kept a clean sheet. Equally, I wouldn't be shocked if we conceded a single goal. I have thought, similar to Chris, I have thought we'll probably score 3 and concede 1, so my prediction would be 3-1. I've just got a good feeling that we're going to win the game comfortably.
Yeah, let's hope so. That is it for the preview show. Thank you for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow with the starting 11 prediction. Thanks to the guys for joining me tonight as well. See you soon.